Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser and Nolan Goslee. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
And welcome into the program. This is Your Course to Retirement with the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners, Grand Rapids, your resource for that information that we need to navigate this complex financial world, plan for a more secure financial and retirement future. And with us today, we have Nolan Goslee. And Nolan, always a pleasure. We appreciate the guidance and perspective that you provide here on the program.
For sure. Always a pleasure to be here. I like talking with you. I like talking with everybody that listens, and hopefully we can provide some information today just to make retirement a little bit easier for everybody.
Yeah, you always do. And of course, that's the goal of the program here. Nolan, a little bit of a facelift there at the firm, and then you've got a new look, new name, new logo. You've got LASIK, you don't have the glasses on, so even you've got a new look. A lot of change has gone on there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners, but at the bottom of it all, the same great advice and guidance that you guys have been providing, helping Grand Rapids area savers and investors on both the wealth management and the health planning, correct?
For sure. Yeah. And that's one thing through all the changes that I think we've tried to reiterate to everybody. Our goal is to keep things as similar as everybody's come to know us as a company. Same services, same people that you'll always meet with. We're not all of a sudden, making all of Ron's clients meet with me or vice versa. We're just trying to keep everything as steady and calm and cool as collected as we can so we can help people manage. And that's what we always try and do.
Fantastic. Well, I know that you probably had a lot of to-do items on the checklist as you were making the change in name only here, we'll call it, but still some things that you had to check off. I got to tell you, I love checklists. When my wife sends me to the grocery store, she appreciates checklists. She always sends me with that list so I don't forget anything. When we're assigning chores for my son to do, I always write them down so he doesn't forget about anything. You've got a pretty outstanding checklist that we're going to go through today to know, are we ready to retire? Are we prepared? And I'm sure a lot of people out there is like, oh yeah, I'm so ready to retire, mentally and emotionally, but financially, are you prepared for retirement? That may be a little bit of a different story, but if we have confident answers to these 12 questions, we can probably feel fairly confident in making that transition.
Right. And it's all about preparedness. That's why we have the questions. That's why we have checklists. That's why we prepare in this way. If we have a set of questions or some guidelines, it's helpful as a client, as a prospect, or just as somebody looking for a little bit more information on retirement. What are some things you need to look at? Most people look at most things, but some things that some people may overlook, they may not think about very often. And that's what we're going to get to the bottom of today, and just make sure that as you approach retirement and as you get a little bit closer, you're a little bit more prepared today than you were yesterday.
Well, if you would like this list, to go over on your own, if you've been thinking about your retirement in the future, or even if you're already retired, making sure you're doing the right things, but certainly if you're planning for that and maybe the next 5 to 10 years, and you want to start making sure you've got the items checked off, that you've addressed all of the things that's going to create that foundation of confidence into and through retirement, give a call and just request the list. Go over it on your own time. Go over it with your spouse, your family, your loved ones. If you got parents who are thinking of retiring, or children who might be thinking of retiring, if you got a coworker that around the water cooler has mentioned that they may be thinking about it in the near future, they would appreciate if you hand them this list and they would know what they need to address. So if you'd like to get the questions, give a call and request the Are You Prepared? The 12 question checklist here. Now, if you don't have a confident answer to any of these questions, that is where Nolan and the team there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners can help you formulate those answers. And they do offer you the ability to do that as well. So 616-301-2581, the number to call if you'd like the list, or if you'd like to go ahead and set up the time for that planning session to get your course to retirement mapped out out. And of course, if you're only going to be able to tune in for part of the program today, we're going to try to cover as many of these 12 questions as possible. But if you'd like that complete list, a great way to get that, just give a call now, 616-301-2581. Nolan, I really like the way the first one is phrased here, because yes, all of these are intended to be about retirement, but I feel like even I, at my current phase in life, need to have a good answer to this one. And the way it's phrased, do you know how long you would be able to cover the expenses if your paycheck stopped today? And that's really what the emergency account is about. That's what our retirement savings is about. On the day that we retire, we're planning on leaving the paycheck behind, and we better have a pretty good answer to the savings lasting as long as we need it to.
Exactly right. And how long you need your money to generate that income in retirement is really where income planning, works the best. How much money do you have? How is it positioned? Using reasonable expectations, but of course, trying to build some sort of a safety net into your portfolio too, so that you can make sure that that income is going to be there for the long term. Your goal really with your portfolio should be to make it try and mimic something like a Social Security or like a pension, where you're trying to secure income. You're trying to make sure that that income is as guaranteed as you can possibly get it from a variety of different sources. Many people just used to say, well, if I invest in dividend paying stocks, I'll probably be just fine. Well, there's a lot of dividend paying stocks. There's a lot more stock risk than there used to be. There are international risks that expose domestic securities. So a lot of things are different now than they were 10, 20, 30 years ago. And so what we really try and do is say, well, what you have saved today, how are we going to apply it with the rules that there are today and where we expect taxes, healthcare, everything to go, and make that money last for as long as we possibly can, and hopefully longer than you.
Well, and if we have not gone through this income planning process, we might not have a great answer to this question. Ron, when he's on this program, he likes to talk about my $10 million that I have in the bank. He always likes to say, well, Peter, you've got that $10 million, but you spend $1 million a year. And so I can't tell you that we can promise to make this last. So if somebody has, let's make it a little bit more realistic numbers here, for probably the majority of the listeners, if they've got the 500,000, if they got the million, whatever that number is, you look at that big number and it might give you good confidence. But the question of, well, now, how long can you make it last? Just the lump sum doesn't give us an answer to that question. It is actually the income planning process that you do there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners that's going to tell us that.
Right. And the income planning process is the key. You can have a large sum of money. You can have a large sum of money that's exactly equal to the large sum of money that your neighbor has, but you could have completely different investment objectives, completely different, settings within your account, a completely different mix of investments. So not every chunk of money is equal to the next chunk of money. And it's really important to understand, what risks you're exposing yourself to, and where your chunk of money is most susceptible to losses, or maybe to not going according to plan, and really just identifying, yes, that this pile of money is for this purpose and this pile of money is for another purpose, and identifying those purposes, identifying where your income is coming from is pivotal to that.
On the day that we retire, or before that day, we are planning for that day where we'll no longer have a paycheck. And so again, the retirement savings accounts, the IRAs, the Roths, the 401ks, those are what we're going to need to structure to answer this question. But I do feel like this question does give a tip of the cap to the need for a savings, a more short-term emergency account, if you want to call it that. But in the tech bubble burst, in the Great Recession, even in COVID, when things shut down for several months there, having that savings account there as your reserve really was what got many people through a temporary stopgap. If your employer, from the time you start work at 20 to the time you end it at 65 or 70 or wherever that age is, if they say, hey, we no longer need your services, but you're not quite ready to retire yourself, that's what the savings account is for. And then the long term, the planned date of retirement, that's what those retirement accounts are for.
Right. And, it's important to talk about that savings account. It's important to know how long that's going to last you. One of the first things that I ask people when we're going through the planning process is, do you have cash saved? Do you have enough where if you lose your job today, you're not kicked out of your house in 6 months? And really just trying to build some sort of a safety measure within the portfolio so that you're comfortable if you lose your job unexpectedly. If I'm working right now and I lose my job, or I'm strung up at the hospital and unable to work, you have some insurances for that. You can have unemployment insurance, you can have disability insurance. But when you're retired, or when you're very close to retirement, those insurances don't always cover you. You don't have the disability insurance that's going to be printing paychecks in your garage every single month, or however that works, to give you money, every couple weeks. So understanding insurance fall off, understanding how to protect yourself from an emergency fund standpoint, it becomes extremely pivotal to the success of your near-term planning.
Well, and I like that at Cornerstone, that's why you partner the health and the wealth side of things to plan for those what ifs as well. And I know that's a big part of bringing the total picture of having financial security together, is looking at both sides of that. Now, I think the rest of these questions really have to do more specifically with retirement and begin to get into the math, or what we need to be doing in order to say, yes, not only mentally and emotionally am I very ready to retire, but financially I'm ready to make that leap. Question number 2, have you identified and calculated your retirement income gap? Now, unless savers and investors have been paying attention to this program, Nolan, I'm not sure everybody's heard the term income gap. What is that, and why do we need to be aware of it?
Sure. So your income gap is essentially the amount of money that you need to live on every single month that's left behind once your Social Security and any pensions and guaranteed income sources kick in. So if I have a retirement cash flow need, if I have $3,000 of expenses every single month, and I have $2,000 of Social Security and $500 of a pension, then that means I have a $500 income gap. We extrapolate, across the entire year to identify the annual income gap. And then your goal will be to have your portfolio, your savings, provide that income gap for you. There are a variety of different ways to go about it, but that's the nuts and bolts of that piece of information right there. That's how I would identify an income gap.
And now it seems to me like a $500 a month income gap. We can address that fairly easily. We don't need a huge amount of savings to do that. But if we've got a $5,000 a month income gap and $8,000 a month income gap, Social Security is not meant to cover all of our expenses. And the more we are used to living on, generally the less Social Security is going to cover of our total expenses. And that's really where we need to, Nolan, make sure that the assets sort of line up with and are capable of producing what is needed to fill that income gap, correct?
For sure. Yeah. And I guess just understanding how your portfolio is positioned, and what risks you're really leaving it up to. If you carry a 100% market-based portfolio into retirement and you're expecting that to fill your income gap, well, you would hope that your rate of withdrawal is safe enough that 100% market-based portfolio can provide for that. Now, safety is a relative word. It means different things to different people, but it's been suggested that the safe rate of withdrawal for a market-based portfolio is only about 1 or 2%. So, if you have a couple $1,000s per month that you need to generate for your income gap, you better have a pretty big portfolio if you expect a 100% market-based portfolio to provide that gap for you. That's why we talk about safety. That's why we talk about, the planning process, because a lot of people don't like to leave their income gap up to guesswork. I certainly wouldn't. I want to make sure that money's coming in every single month to take care of my family, it's going to come in if the market does well. I don't have much control over that, neither do you.
Well, right. And the market doesn't always do well. Looking back in history since the Great Depression, the past 100 years or so, the market has had several periods of decline, like 14 or 15 periods where it's gone down significantly, and then taken a lot of time to get back to break even. But some of those downturns have been 50% on average, like about 40% downturns that happen every 5 to 7 years or so. So over a 25 or 30-year retirement, we're probably going to experience a few of those. And Nolan, if our income generating power is based in the market, those downturns really could affect our standard of living and our financial outlook pretty significantly.
Yeah, and a lot of people, when they, when they're trying to identify their income gap, and when they do have a market-based portfolio, that the volatility that you mentioned is just a killer. Because you have to think, well, not only are you experiencing the market risk, but you're also taking money out of your portfolio at that point. While you're working, it's not as important to mitigate losses. Obviously you still want to. You don't want to go down 30, 40, 50%. But while you're working, you have a little bit of time to make that up. Whereas if you're taking out 3, 4, 5% of your portfolio and the market crashes 40 or 50%, your loss is exacerbated by your withdrawal. So if you go down 50 and it takes 3 years to come back, but you've been taking out 5% per year, you have not made your money back by the end of that 3-year period. You're probably markedly less than you were before, and you would have to take more risk to get your money back. And not a lot of people like to take more risk as they get older and as they get further on through retirement.
Right. Yeah, we want to tone down on that risk potentially, because we don't want our life savings wiped out when we need it the most.
You don't want 2008 to happen 1 year into your retirement.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
got to hedge against it a little bit.
Yeah. And probably a lot of people listening know somebody that maybe retired in 2005 or 2006 and retired into that downturn. And what did that look like and feel like for that individual? We don't want to be in that same boat, because it was a very scary time, even when we did have a job. But if you don't, and you're living off that savings, even scarier. So again, we're talking today about the report that the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners can certainly provide for you. Are you ready to retire? These 12 questions will indicate if you are prepared. And number 2 on the list, have you identified and calculated your retirement income gap? Give a call if you would like this list, by the way, if you're not going to be able to tune in for the entirety of the program, or if you'd like to go over these with a family member or spouse. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. I do also want to mention all these great resources online, cornerstone-rp.com, cornerstone-rp.com. And if you're watching the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and share, because I think that you probably, if you're interested in this and find this valuable, you probably know somebody else who would as well. And we always appreciate you helping us get these important facts out. So number 3 on the list, Nolan, do you know how much you have available in discretionary assets above what you will need to generate retirement income? So 2 and 3 kind of partner on the 2 sides. What's essential for me to cover my baseline subsistence living, and then what's retirement about? Where can I actually live and enjoy myself, right?
Right. And it's identification. It's going through the process. It's understanding, well, how much do I need for my emergency fund? Okay, check. Emergency fund is taken care of. Okay, how much do I need to generate additional income above and beyond Social Security so that my day-to-day living is not impacted by me retiring? And that's step 2. So then step 3, what's above and beyond that? What am I going to use in order to enjoy my retirement? Do I want a boat? Do I want a trailer? Do I want to travel? Do I just want to stay at home and keep doing all the same stuff? Home improvements, things like that, to make retirement a little bit easier, but certainly more enjoyable. And it's important to know how much of that you have and how enjoyable your retirement can be based on your expectations. Identifying that's very important. A lot of people we talk to think, oh, well, I never want to touch my money. I can never touch it. And I'm only going to live on Social Security. Well, I mean, what's the point of saving? You have to be able to enjoy retirement a little bit. And so our goal in this planning process is to identify not only how you want to enjoy it, but what funds you have available to enjoy it, and how to treat that money a little differently.
It's ironic, like the fear of overspending and running out is what actually leads to people underspending and not living the fulfilled lifestyle that they could.
Yeah, withdrawal rate risk. I mean, that's what we talk about, withdrawal rate risk. It goes both ways. You can withdraw too aggressively. You can also withdraw too conservatively. There are some people that it's so tough to get over the mental hurdle of, I've been working and saving, and now I'm going to be retiring and spending. And a lot of people can't get through the spending aspect of it.
Do you ever give give people permission. Hey, you can spend a little money here. You
Yeah,
can take it. You can enjoy yourself after you put the plan together. You feel more confident than they just do a little bit.
yeah, it's that goal setting too, and it goes both ways. When I see somebody and they have a really, really good year and they've expressed to me that they have certain financial objectives in their retirement, I'll say, hey, this was a really good year. You've had this goal for the past 15 years. Now is a pretty good time to jump on it. And it's nice to be able to say, well, in my retirement, I'm doing well enough to live fruitfully, not frugally, or frugally but within measure and still able to enjoy myself. We don't want you to go down to one meal a day. We don't want you to go down to one vacation every 3 years. You should be able to spend time with kids, grandkids, friends, still maintain a social life, but feel confident that you can do so. Not that, oh no, I only have $20 that I made in my portfolio this week, so I can only go out to lunch one time. You don't want to have to think like that.
Well, I think that is the confidence that comes from planning and a plan to address what is needed to cover routine expenses and budget items, and then what's left over to do those nice things that we all envision retirement to be more about. And if you'd like to get that plan, or even if, again, you'd like these 12 questions that you can go over on your own, give a call to Cornerstone Retirement Partners. They're happy to provide you the list or provide you some time to sit down with a team of qualified professionals and formulate your answers to these questions and get your course to retirement plan mapped out. 616-301-2581 is the number to call. 616-301-2581. And by the way, that planning, that is the value of being tuned into the program. That is truly where you can benefit from being tuned in, because the knowledge and the information, it's powerful, but it's powerful when it's put into action. And the team there, they don't want costs to be an objective or objection that gets in the way of people having a plan. They want you to have it. They are willing to donate their time if you're serious about your future and willing to invest some of yours. So no cost, no obligation, similar kinds of plans. The time with a CFP and the time with a team of qualified professionals could easily go upwards of $1,000, several thousands of dollars. They make it available to you, no cost. Pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581. Ron, when he's on the program, and keep referring back to him, but he's part of the team there, he always talks about diversification, but how nobody has ever come in and said that they need more mid-cap in their life. They need their money to have more mid-cap, small cap, baseball cap, hub cap. He talks about that's not what diversification is about. He talks about the things that money can do for us and how we need to diversify so we get our dollars to do all of them.
Yeah, and when we talk about diversification, I mean, it can mean many things, but when you talk about diversification, what you're trying to do is just reduce risk. Any type of diversification is to reduce risk, right? So whether you're talking about, I need to diversify my stock portfolio by buying bonds, I mean, that's a way to take some risk off the table. When we talk about diversification in income planning and in retirement planning, what we talk about is diversification of your assets depending on what your goal is with that money. Do you need that money to grow? Do you need that money to be safe? Do you need it to be incredibly liquid, or do you need it to provide income? When we talk about that type of diversification, you can really identify, are these assets doing those things or not? Your growth asset should be probably your most volatile assets in your portfolio. If you're retiring, you probably don't want 100% of your portfolio in growth assets. Those are the ones that have the nice 10, 20, 30, 40, 100% rates of return some years, but they're also the ones that'll go down 10, 20, 30, 40% in bad years, or during a COVID pandemic, or during a housing crisis or a dot-com bubble. So knowing how you're diversified beyond, I have this much in stocks and this much in bonds, that's what we like to talk about. So understanding your risks, understanding what you're most susceptible to, and diversifying away from those risks.
Growth, safety, liquidity, and income. How do I lessen the risk to my money? I've heard it said, ironically, sometimes it is by taking more risk. If you've got all of your money sitting in the bank, that's not diversified, and you actually are exposing yourself to other risk. But likewise, on the other end of the spectrum, not all of your money at the whims of the swings of the market either. That's what true diversification is all about.
Yeah, it's the age old adage of, not all your eggs in one basket, right?
All in, not
Yeah.
the right answer to almost anything in life.
Diversify your eggs, right?
Yeah.
Find three or four different baskets, one that's cushiony and one that you can, chuck across the yard and protect everything. So yeah, it's just identifying opportunities, identifying what you want your money to do, and being very intentional with how you place your retirement savings. I mean, it's your life savings at that point. And you have to be intentional with it. Each pot of money that you have has to have a certain objective, and you have to know how you're going to achieve those objectives.
So before you deploy your money, before you decide on the investment tool to use, you've got to ask yourself, what job do you want done with that dollar? And that's going to help you arrive at the conclusion of the appropriate tool to use.
That's right. Yeah. If I wanted income, I would not put my money in the same place as I would if I wanted growth. If I want growth, if I want aggressive growth right now, I'll probably do something well diversified in tech and healthcare, and I would expect to hold on to it for 5 or 10 years. And that's the premise there. But if I need something for income, my time horizon is probably much shorter. Rather than waiting 5 to 10 years for my good rate of return, my average annual rate of return to actually hit. If you need income, you need something that's going to provide current interest, current dividends, or current income through some means, through some product, through some investment. So yeah, you have to identify those goals. You have to understand what assets are going to provide what of those services for you, and how much you need to have in each bucket. How much do I need to have in my growth bucket? How much do I need to have in my income bucket? Does my income money need to be liquid, or am I okay with just a lifetime stream of income like Social Security? So all of those are considerations, and it's more than just, I'm diversified. I have 60% stocks and 40% bonds. Well, yeah. Technically you're right, but you're not diversified from an income planning standpoint. You're just diversified from an asset standpoint.
Well, almost halfway through the program here. We've covered 4 of the 12 questions, so we'll need to get to more of them after the break here. But we are speaking with Nolan Goslee, Grand Rapids, your resource for that information, for the planning strategies to help you be more efficient with your money. One of the team members there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners, and certainly a resource for you. Give a call if you'd like this list of these 12 questions to know if you are prepared for retirement, have confident answers to these 12 questions. You probably are. If you're uncertain about any of these, then you may need some time and attention, and they will also provide that for you in your planning efforts there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners, help you formulate your course to retirement. Give a call to request the list or to request the time to sit down with the team. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. We'll come back. We'll talk about when's the last time you had an annual review or checked up on your progress, your goals, and your benchmarks, and made sure that you're setting new ones for the future.
Cornerstone Retirement Partners presents Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser and Nolan Goslee. Cornerstone Retirement Partners are planning today for the potential of tomorrow. Visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
And welcome back into the program, Your Course to Retirement, with the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners. And today we have Nolan Goslee with us, one of the partners there at the firm, helping us cover this list. And it's a resource available to you, ladies and gentlemen. If you would like this list of the 12 questions to know if you are ready to retire, pick up the phone, give a call. But we're covering some of the questions and what you need to think about in order to formulate your answers. So again, if you'd like the list, give a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Nolan, unfortunately, I think a lot of people probably don't have a great answer to this one, even if they have maybe a relationship, we'll call it, with a broker or advisor, maybe not have checked in with them very recently. So number 5 on the list, do you hold annual reviews of your plan to assess if you have met previous goals and to set new goals and benchmarks? Pretty important if you're getting ready to retire.
Yeah, this is one of the keys that a lot of people miss, I think, because You set a plan in motion and then you just assume the plan's always going to work. I think we all know that the world's a little bit different today than it was a year ago, and a little different a year ago than it was 5 years ago. And so if you set a plan, if you put an income plan together and you're assuming that you're going to be able to draw income off of it forever, but you don't meet regularly to discuss it, you don't have benchmarks, you don't really take a hard look at, is this working, is this not working? Well, again, you're leaving it a little bit up to chance at that point. So we think that checking in on portfolios and making sure they're doing what you need them to is one of the most important things that you can do with this process. It's the maintenance on your plan.
Well, and hey, things change in life. Things change in the world around us pretty rapidly. Things change in our own situation. So having that kind of regular checkup and review is really pretty prudent to make sure that the plan is keeping up. It's not etched in stone and going to be good forever. In addition to that, Nolan, I used to worry about money a whole lot more when I didn't dedicate some time to think about it, right? During the course of the month, sort of the budget and the spending and where am I with my balance was on my mind all the time. And then my wife and I got together and we said, let's dedicate half an hour a month just to talking about this and making sure we're on the same page. And all of a sudden, all of that worry during the course of the month was confined into that little tiny half-hour space, and we were done with it. And I was feeling much more confident the rest of the month. So I think that's the spirit of the point of this question. Those two factors there is the life changes and you don't want to worry as much.
Yeah. Taking worry off the table, taking stress off the table. That's something that, you try and do with everything that you can control in your life. And if you're not a financial professional, or if you haven't spent years and years or even decades studying and recognizing trends and researching different investments, well, you can't be expected to know everything about income planning. And so when we talk to people and when we set up portfolios and when we set up income plans, we have to check in regularly because things change every single day. Taxes change, healthcare rules change. Social Security changes on a year-to-year basis. And so understanding where regulations are, understanding where trends are going, that goes above and beyond just understanding the difference between a stock and a bond and how to mix those into your portfolio.
Well, one trend that if we're talking about retirement, we sort of do need to be concerned about this one is the discussion around Social Security. We can't really have a conversation about are you ready to retire without addressing Social Security, but have you formulated a plan for how to use Social Security to maximize income and protect your personal assets is the number 6 question on the list here. Now, where do we factor in any concerns that we have about Social Security itself in that conversation, Nolan? I want to make the most of it, but yeah, at the same time, I want them to make sure that it's going to be there for me to make the most of it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we do, especially as you approach retirement, is just a Social Security analysis. So what a Social Security analysis does is a wide variety of things, but it really tries to peel back the layers of Social Security into a palatable and easy to understand process. Social Security is incredibly important. And a lot of people think, well, as soon as I turn 62, I'm going to claim it because I want that money for as long as I can. Well, if you keep working, you may not get all of that Social Security. Or if you do get it, paid back later by the Social Security Administration, it might not be all at once. Understanding how it's going to be taxed, understanding how it works alongside your personal assets. That's what we go over when we do a Social Security analysis. It's not just flip a switch online and you start having monthly income. It is a pretty in-depth process to figure out not only what are your options, but how best you should take it given the amount of money you saved up or income you have coming from other places.
A lot of people think of Social Security as though it's in a vacuum. Like that's the only decision I have to make is when can I claim and collect Social Security? And that's really missing a lot of the complete picture there. And you may be making a mistake without incorporating that into the rest of your plan, right, Nolan?
Sure. Yeah. You have to know your Social Security, your spouse's Social Security, where your other assets are that are going to be able to provide income, and then down the road, what are some considerations? So chances are both spouses are not going to pass away on the same day. So if you both claim at age 62, but one of those Social Security benefits will be left behind by a deceased spouse, you want to be able to maximize income for the remaining spouse, and that's a consideration too. So not only on the front end do I meet my income objectives, but on the back end, is my remaining spouse going to be able to meet theirs? A huge consideration that a lot of people don't think about when they're just thinking, well, I'm going to claim at 62 because it'll get me the most money while I'm alive. Well, that's half the equation.
Well, again, if you need help with that, and again, just the Social Security report and analysis by itself is going to help you to formulate some answers to the rest of these questions. But that alone can make the difference in a lot of income, a significant amount, in some cases, several hundreds of thousands of dollars over kind of average life expectancies. That's money that you either get from Social Security or you're going to have to generate from your personal savings and investments. I know where I'd rather get that money from. So why not spend the time to learn the strategies to maximize it when planning for Social Security as part of your larger course to retirement? And that's, again, the Social Security report analysis, that crunching the numbers, finding the strategies, Nolan, part of the offerings of in formulating the course to retirement plan for Grand Rapids area savers and investors.
Exactly. And it's so important to understand that, there are way too many different aspects of Social Security not to take a little bit of time, learn a little bit more about it, and see what your options are, just to see your options. You can't get an analysis run at the Social Security office. They basically just tell you what your options are currently.
They're not advisors. They don't take on that liability.
Right. And they're not going to ask you where your other assets are. They're not going to ask you where your other pensions are. They're not going to ask you any of those questions. They'll just tell you, well, you can claim now, or you can claim 5 years from now, or you can claim at 70. And anywhere in between. And that's about where their advice ends.
Well, I want to get all that I am entitled to. Some people have a problem with that word entitlement. I do not. I have been working and contributing for 25 years to this. And once I get to retirement age, even longer than that. So get everything I can out of it. And I don't know if it's going to be in the same form or fashion as it is today for me. It's a few years off in the future. But again, if you want to formulate your plan and it is in the more immediate future, in the next year, in the next 5 years, run that report, that analysis, pick up that phone, give Cornerstone Retirement Partners a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. And you can also get this list of other important questions to have answers to, like number 7 on the list. Do you know how you would cover the cost of medical and long-term care expenses should you or your spouse require care? Nolan, this one is the proverbial ostrich with its head in the sand question, I think, in most people's planning and situation.
Yeah, for a lot of different reasons. I have so many people that want to retire early. You hit your retirement number at age 58 and you decide that you want to stop working at age 60. Well, one of the bad things about retiring early is you still have to worry about healthcare costs. You don't get Medicare until you turn 65. So if you don't have good subsidies, income's too high, you're going to be paying a lot of money for healthcare if you decide that you want to carry health insurance. That goes very well hand in hand with long-term care. Another very big potential expense down the road that a lot of people need, but not a lot of people plan for. So one of the things that we try and do as we're going through our planning process is identify gaps in planning in those areas. One of the really nice things about Nancy being here in the office is she handles Medicare. She's certified in long-term care insurance. And we have a wide variety of options as far as how to approach these things, whether it's a long-term care policy, a hybrid product of some kind that has long-term care built into it, but at least having a discussion about it so that you understand, how it can potentially just route your retirement plan, even if you don't die at the end of your long-term care experience. Some people do long-term care and get better, but long-term care is very expensive, depending on facility, anywhere between $4,000 and $10,000 a month. So unless you are planning for it, or unless you have some sort of bucket in your plan that would help alleviate some of those costs, you can see how your money that you've saved up can go away pretty quickly.
Well, and I was going to say, this is where the interplay and the coordination of the efforts and the different areas of focus and expertise of the partners there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners benefits your clients, is that you're looking at things from both the wealth planning and management side, but also the health and healthcare planning and management side, to make sure that we've put in place certain protections, and that we've got certain answers addressed, questions addressed, and answers formulated.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you go just to a financial advisor, or even to your 401k advisor, and they just say, well, you should invest your assets like this, and over time you should be okay. I don't want to build my house on a should, right? If you only do the financial planning portion of it, but not the income planning, you've built a foundation, but you don't have walls. If you've built the foundation and the walls, but you don't talk about healthcare, long-term care insurance, Social Security, you haven't built yourself a roof, and so each one of these things just builds that retirement house for you. And you have to have a good foundation, but it's more than the foundation. You can't build it out of straw, can't build it out of sticks. You want to build it out of bricks, and it takes time to get there.
I remember as a child, Nolan, I would take family trips out to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And the Outer Banks, these are islands along the coast, and these islands move. So people would build their houses, and then the island would start to move out from underneath them. And you'd come across this house that was no longer inhabitable. It was, they had closed it off, but the tide was slowly washing away the foundation underneath it. We don't want that to happen with our financial structure and retirement. That's why we need to address this issue. Again, just one of these 12 questions to know if you are ready to retire. You need to have pretty confident answers to all of these questions. If you'd like the list of questions, pick up the phone, give a call, request the list. You can go over it on your own time. You can go over it with your family, your spouse, your parents, your children, if they're thinking about retiring, a coworker, if they've mentioned it. You can put it in their hands. They will thank you and appreciate, hey, this is good food for thought, and you want to provide that to somebody. Give a call. You can go over just the list, request the questions, or if you'd like to formulate answers to these questions, you can sit down with the partners at Cornerstone Retirement Partners and formulate your course to retirement to get your answers. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Do you know the cash flow rate your portfolio will need to generate in order to meet your retirement needs? You alluded to a withdrawal rate risk earlier, and how it could be kind of on either side. And when I've got my theoretical $10 million, but I'm taking out $1 million a year to live on, that's 10% cash flow. Probably not sustainable. We need to find a realistic, sustainable cash flow rate here.
Right. And, cash flow rate can mean different things for different people. But really what we talk about with cash flow rate is how much money reasonably can you expect your portfolio to give you each year. Your cash flow rate to meet your retirement needs, that's something that you have to know before you place your money somewhere. So if you need a 3% cash flow rate, then you should be somewhere that can generate you a 3% average annual rate of return plus any cost of investing. So maybe you need 5% gross. Okay, so 5% gross return, but after your costs, you're earning 3%, and that's perfect for you.
Probably not going to get that in a bank right now.
Yeah, probably not going to get that in a bank. I think a 1-year U.S. Treasury is kicking off 0.06% or something like that right now. So rates are low. Rates will probably be low for a little while. So cash flow rate becomes a little more difficult to find. We're in what I would call a yield-starved environment, where it's very hard to find good yielding products anywhere, whether it be stocks, whether it be bonds. There's just not a very heavy amount of yield out there. And so understanding cash flow rate, but having your portfolio be nimble enough to change given different cash flow situations is important. I would say the most important thing you can do is guarantee your income in any way that you can. If you can guarantee your income, then your cash flow rate is set each year. It's set based on the portfolio you've designed for yourself, and you know that you're going to be generating that income. Whereas, again, I'll just use an example of a stock-based portfolio. You can choose a dividend-paying portfolio that kicks off an average dividend of 3%. But if the stock market crashes and you're in 100% dividend paying stocks, your 3% in year 2 might be drastically different than your 3% in year 1. Your portfolio value fluctuates so much on an annual basis.
Now, Nolan, you're speaking of dividends here, and that's different than the stock price. The dividend is income that is kicked off. Essentially, as I understand it, stock price is like the value of the company. If you multiply the number of shares times the price, that should give you an estimate for what the company itself is worth. But you buy stock, you're a part owner of that company. And as the owner, I would like to get some of the profits. That is the dividend. Not guaranteed though, because a company that still has value might go through periods where it's not profitable. So 2007, 2008, the Great Recession, a lot of dividends were cut or eliminated completely. During the onset of COVID, I think a lot of companies that had otherwise paid pretty steady dividends cut them. And during those times, the value of the companies often go down. So now we have no income, or our income is reduced, and the value of our underlying capital to go out and reproduce that has also been diminished. Kind of a double whammy. And one of the reasons why, as you said, I don't think we can count on dividends to be guaranteed, but in some form or fashion, we would like to try to guarantee some amount of that income.
Sure. One of the things we're taught when we go through all of our regulations testing is you can't sell something, you can't sell a dividend. Okay. You cannot sell that income producing component because it is not guaranteed. Okay. So there are plenty of companies that have given good dividends, decades long, increasing their dividend percentage each year, and that's wonderful. But if you're getting a 5% dividend one year and the company decreases in value by 50%, and then they up their dividend to 6%, well, shoot, yeah, your dividend rate is up, but the value of your holdings is cut in half. So your 6% is effectively 3% based on what you initially invested, which is not the income that you were expecting. And so, the cash flow rate, the income rate, and making sure that it's coming from good, predictable, as guaranteed as you can get at sources is very important. And as you said, dividends are not guaranteed. We saw a lot of companies go from monthly dividends down to quarterly dividends during the pandemic. Once they turned their dividends back on, they still had to make some profits back in order to maintain their company. And so they go from a 5% dividend to a 3.5% dividend. And so, yeah, you see that fluctuation and you see that volatility, and it just makes you think, well, why am I leaving, my portfolio up to that chance?
Or my income up to that chance, especially in retirement, right?
Right. Yeah. You don't risk your current paycheck like that. So why would you risk your future paycheck like
that? Moving on here for the sake of time, just a few minutes left and 3 questions left on the list. Number 10, do you know the percentage of your working career income you will need to support your lifestyle in retirement? This one, I think, Nolan, a lot of kind of misconceptions or misunderstandings or misestimations. Bottom line, we don't want to miss the mark with this one.
Right. The percentage of your working income, it really depends on your goal setting, really being able to identify your goals, making sure that they're measurable, making sure they're attainable, realistic. That's very important. A lot of people think that once they retire, their income needs are going to go drastically down.
Do you see that?
Maybe, if you pay off a boatload of debt right before you retire or something like that, sure, your income can go down. But a lot of people carry a lot of the same expenses into retirement. I mean, work is really not that expensive. You pay for gas, right? But you retire, you're still going to have your car. You're still going to drive that car places, maybe not as many places. You're still going to need to eat. You still live in your home. You still pay the same taxes. Your healthcare might be more expensive. Who knows how your Social Security is going to be taxed if you don't go through an analysis, So there are a lot of hidden costs in retirement that can really be detrimental if, you expect to live on like 60% of what you're earning right now while you're working. I mean, it just might not be the case. You might have to live on 85%.
Now there are cases where, somebody's earning a higher amount of income, but their actual expenses are significantly lower. They live a very modest, frugal kind of lifestyle where they may reasonably be able to expect a reduction in the amount. But I know in my household, I try to save ahead of time before I see it and make that automatic. But what gets brought home, we find a way to spend that somehow. And savings is part of the budget, but I'm going to need to replace basically what we're used to bringing home and spending.
Right.
And that's got to be the goal. And so sitting down and going through that process is part of formulating the course to retirement plan that you put together and help people structure there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners.
Right, exactly right. It's all part of the plan. It's all part of the process, and having all of these things that we've talked about so far working together is income planning. This is not asset allocation. It's not this is how many stocks, this is how many bonds. This is how are you going to generate income that you will not outlive. Guarantee that you have some income coming in for the rest of your life.
And if you would like some help in formulating that plan, if you'd like to walk through these questions, and of course more, if you got others on your mind, how do I know how much risk I'm taking? How much am I paying in fees? All of the additional questions that go into formulating the plan, they'll certainly help you address. But these are the big ones. These are 12 must have answers to questions to be prepared for retirement. If you'd like the list, give a call. You can go over it on your own time or with whoever you're discussing your plans with. And if you'd like to discuss those plans with a team of qualified professionals, again, Cornerstone Retirement Partners, ladies and gentlemen, your resource here for Grand Rapids and Grand Rapids surrounding areas, savers and investors. And they will gladly speak with you about your questions, about your financial future, about your plan to face that, and help you formulate a better plan where at all possible. 616-301-2581 is the number to call. 616-301-2581. 616-301-2581 if you'd like the list, or if you'd like the time for the your course to retirement strategy session, planning session. Number 11, we're almost there. I'm impressed we've gotten this far through the list. Do you understand how much you will be paying in taxes? Nolan, you mentioned taxes. This is an area of concern for a lot of people, especially if they've done a good job in saving up in those tax deferred accounts. But do you understand how much that tax bill is going to be in retirement and how much of your retirement account withdrawals you actually get to keep? Maybe we're making a pretty big mistake if we're planning on gross numbers and forgetting that Uncle Sam hasn't forgotten about our dollars.
Yeah, we talk about tax buckets. We talk about where is your money allocated? Is your money taxable each year? Did you put all of your money pre-tax, so it's all going to be taxed when you take it out? Or did you put money into your accounts post-tax, so it'll never be taxed again? Like, that's the basic concept of taxable retirement income. Now, how much you'll be paying depends on which accounts you take money out of. There are some taxes that people don't plan for. If your adjusted gross income is too much, your Medicare costs go up. If your income is too high, your Social Security taxes go up. A lot of people think that Social Security income isn't taxed once you reach full retirement age. It's not penalized once you reach full retirement age. Social Security taxation always exists if your income is high enough.
A different topic altogether.
Right. Yeah. So depending on where you take money from, depending on the different sources of income, it's incredibly important to know how you're going to be taxed. What's your take home? Not how much are you going to be taking out, but how much actually gets net to you after you pay Uncle Sam from 2, 3, 4 different sources.
Yeah, and for most of us during our working career, we see that money after Uncle Sam has already taken out his chunk. But in retirement, a lot of times we're going to have to work that into the expenses in the budget and plan for Uncle Sam and how much we ultimately have to pay for him. So again, this list of 12 questions to know if you are ready, how prepared are you for retirement? A fantastic resource for you to go over on your own time to formulate your answers to. But number 12, rounding home here, not only should you have answers to these, but Nolan, do you have those answers in writing? Do you have a written retirement income plan? Do you have the course to retirement plan laid out and in writing? So you got something to refer to and say, this is why I'm confident in my 12 answers.
Right. And it's being able to answer all 12 of these questions. I mean, that's what gets you to your income plan. Have you discussed with whoever you take financial advice from, have you discussed your income gap? Your 401k may say, well, you're expected to generate this much income in retirement. Well, I don't know if that fills your income gap. You probably don't know either at this point, but identifying that's very important. Where your money's going to come from to pay for medical expenses, how you could potentially pay for long-term care, when your Social Security is going to get kicked on, how much of that Social Security is going to be taxed. That's the income plan. If you don't have answers to those questions, you don't really have an income plan. You have income hopes and dreams, right? You assume that your portfolio is going to perform in a certain way based on historical data. Well, I can make any portfolio look great if I use historical data, right?
The right time frame.
I'll pick the best stocks that have performed over the past year and say, well, this is how I do it over the last year. But back data is only so good. You still have to prepare for the unexpected. And the only way you can prepare for the unexpected is to go through a good planning process, a holistic planning process that involves all of these different aspects. And if you're not talking about it, then you're probably not prepared for it.
Well, Cornerstone Retirement Partners, they invite you to go through that planning process with them so that you can learn from their experience and gain perspective and guidance for making decisions, answering these 12 questions. If you'd like the list, give a call. You can request that. They'll email it out to you. You can get the 12 questions in your hand. If you would like to formulate answers to any of these 12 questions, give them a call. And they will invite you in and virtually, fine, through the safety, ease, the convenience of technology. They can do it over the phone, over the computer, or in person, but help you formulate your course to retirement. Call now for either of those valuable reasons why to tune into the program, but the real value is the next step. Pick up the phone, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. Nolan, always a pleasure to talk with you and the rest of the partners there at Cornerstone Retirement Partners.
It's always a joy to be on the show. These are things that we really care about, things that we see every day. There are certain pitfalls that you can avoid through the proper planning process, and that's what we're here to try and help you with. So give us a ring if you need any help. If you haven't talked about any of these things, we're happy to go over with them one by one, 1, 2, 3 of them, or all 12. We're here for you.
Looking forward to hearing from you. 616-301-2581. We'll talk to you next time on your course to retirement.
Tune into Cornerstone Retirement Partners' full radio program, Your Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock at News Radio WOOD, or visit cornerstone-rp.com for many valuable resources, including those mentioned on this show and other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services.
Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals or growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes.